Hey there! Welcome back to another gripping story here on our channel. Today, we're uncovering a shocking tale, the chilling plan of a man orchestrating his own death. Before we dive into this incredible journey, we need your support to keep bringing you more compelling stories like this. So, don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with all our latest content. Let's dive into this unbelievable story together. In a modest home in a humble neighborhood, João, a 38-year-old man, stared at the pile of bills on the table with a heavy head and his hands pressed against his forehead, as though the weight of the situation could somehow be relieved by a miracle he knew would never come. His wife, Ana, was in the kitchen, preparing yet another simple meal while trying to hide her exhaustion. The rare illness of their 7-year-old daughter, Lara, hung over them like a constant shadow, draining the family's joy. Lara had already lost weight, her skin was pale, and her once bright eyes could barely open anymore. The family struggled against the harsh reality that the treatment was outrageously expensive, and despite countless attempts for help, no friend, relative, or institution had been able to offer any support. That day, João had left the doctor's office with Ana, carrying the weight of the doctor's blunt words: "Without treatment, little Lara would not survive." He had spent sleepless nights trying to find a solution to save his daughter, but every door he knocked on slammed shut harder than the last. Desperation became tangible, and arguments with Ana became more frequent, as both of them were emotionally drained. Sitting in their small living room that night, as Lara's weak breathing echoed from the room next door, João rifled through old papers, searching for something, anything, that could help. And then, amid the darkness, he found a document that seemed to shine, a life insurance policy he had taken out years ago. The amount was large enough to cover Lara's treatment, but the cruel condition was clear: he would have to die for the money to be released. João spent hours staring at that document, as though the numbers and letters held the power to either resolve his pain or intensify it further. The value of the insurance was more than enough to save Lara, but the idea of his own death as the solution filled him with fear, doubt, and, paradoxically, hope. He didn't mention anything to Ana at first, knowing she would never accept such an extreme measure. The following days were filled with even greater tension as João observed every detail around him: Lara's weak laughter, Ana's tired gaze, and the sound of the silverware clinking against their daughter's empty plate during dinner. Every little moment seemed to gain an overwhelming intensity, and João began to withdraw emotionally, consumed by dark thoughts. He knew he needed to ensure that his death would seem convincing to the insurance company, or the sacrifice would be in vain. One night, as Ana slept beside him, João got out of bed and walked through the dark house, holding the insurance paper in his hands. He felt the coldness of the early morning, and with every step he took, it seemed he was drawing closer to his decision. Sitting in the living room, he murmured to himself, "I can do this. It's the only way. If I don't, Lara won't stand a chance." But doubt gnawed at him, and he knew that in order to go through with the plan, he would have to face the biggest obstacle of all: telling his wife. João was increasingly tormented. The weight of the decision grew heavier with each passing day, like a shadow following him in every movement. He started avoiding long conversations with Ana and couldn't bring himself to look directly at Lara for fear of breaking down. In his mind, he repeated like a mantra that he was doing this for them, but the pain and guilt were undeniable. He began walking through the neighborhood, searching for some kind of distraction, but the sounds of children playing in the park or the chatter of neighbors only heightened his sense of isolation. The memory of his failed attempts to ask for help still stung like an open wound. The rejection and excuses from friends and family haunted him. During one of these walks, he sat on a bench in the park and watched the activity around him, trying to sort through the thoughts that seemed to explode inside his head. "I am a failure," he thought. "I couldn't protect my family. and now this is all I can do." When he returned home that evening, he found Anna in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying as she stirred the rice slowly, her movements betraying her emotional state. She looked at João for a moment, and he could tell she knew something was wrong, but no words were exchanged. João went upstairs to Lara's room, where he found her sleeping soundly. He approached her, breathing in the sweet scent of her skin, and whispered, "I'll save you, my love. No matter the cost." He knew the decision had been made, but it did nothing to lighten the weight of what was to come. That night, after putting Lara to bed, João sat down in the living room and called Anna to talk. He knew he couldn't hide his plan any longer, and the moment felt as heavy as it was inevitable. Anna came from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel, and sat down across from him, her face tired and her eyes full of suspicion. "What is it, João? You've been acting strange for days," she said, her voice trembling but firm. João took a deep breath, staring at his hands folded in his lap before raising his eyes to meet hers. "Anna, I found a solution for Lara's treatment," he said, and the serious tone made Anna freeze. "I found the life insurance we took out years ago. The amount is enough to cover everything, but..." He hesitated, his throat tight. "But I need to die for you to receive it." Anna stared at him, first in silence, as though waiting for him to say it was a joke. When she realized he was serious, her expression shifted to disbelief and rage. "You must be out of your mind, João. This isn't a solution. It's cowardice," she shouted, standing up suddenly. João stood as well, his words coming out with more intensity. "Do you think this is easy for me? Do you think I want to do this? I don't want to, Anna, but I don't see another way. I can't just stand by and watch our daughter die." Anna shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I won't accept this. You don't have the right to make this decision alone. You think you're going to save us, but all you'll do is destroy us." The confrontation was intense, but João had already made his decision. He knew Anna wouldn't understand him in that moment, but he believed that, over time, she would see that he was acting out of love. In the days that followed, João began to withdraw emotionally, as if he were preparing to leave. He engaged in small, seemingly ordinary gestures, but they carried a weight far greater than Anna or Lara could understand. He helped Lara tidy her room, read to her at night, and silently watched his wife as she cooked or folded clothes. For him, each moment felt like a silent goodbye. Anna, on the other hand, was attuned to every movement João made. She knew he was still determined to follow through with his plan, and this consumed her. She tried to convince him in various ways, showing him news stories of other families who had received help, suggesting new attempts at fundraising, but João always found a reason to dismiss her ideas. One evening, Anna found João sitting on the sofa, holding an envelope and staring into the emptiness. "What's that?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. He looked at her, hesitated for a moment, and then hid the envelope behind his back. "It's just a letter for you, in case something happens," he said, trying to sound casual. Anna felt a lump form in her throat. "João, please, listen to me. We can still try more. Don't do this. Don't leave us." But João simply lowered his head, unable to respond. He knew the pain he was causing was immense, but to him, the possibility of saving Lara was greater than any suffering he might carry. He looked at Anna one last time that night, as if trying to etch her face into his memory, and went to bed with a heavy heart, but resolute. The following morning, João left the house earlier than usual. He had carefully planned everything to ensure that his death would appear as an accident, leaving no reason for the insurance company to question the payout. He placed the letter on the passenger seat of the car, along with the insurance documents and a few instructions for Anna, and drove out to a deserted road on the outskirts of the city. The sound of the engine was the only noise on that cold, gray morning as João pulled over to the shoulder, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. He took several deep breaths, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside him. He thought of Lara, the smile that had vanished, and Anna, the happy moments they had shared before illness and financial struggles had turned their lives upside down. Tears began to silently roll down João's face as he whispered, "I love you, Anna. I love you, Lara. Forgive me." He stepped out of the car, walked a few paces down the road, and then carried out the plan he had rehearsed in his mind countless times. Hours later, Anna received the news. The phone rang, and on the other end of the line, a cold, formal voice informed her that João had been found dead in an accident. The shock was immediate, and Anna dropped the phone from her hands as tears welled up in her eyes. When she arrived at the scene, she saw João's car and the wreckage scattered around, but what shook her the most was finding the envelope on the passenger seat. As she opened it and read the letter, the confirmation of her worst fears was right there. João had gone through with the plan, sacrificing his life in an attempt to save Lara. The pain Anna felt was overwhelming, as if the ground beneath her had disappeared. In the days that followed, Anna remained in a state of numbness, trying to absorb the impact of João's death. The house felt empty without him, and every corner carried memories that now hurt more than they comforted. The letter he had left remained in her hands for hours, as she read and reread his words, searching for some kind of solace that never came. The hardest moment, however, was facing Lara, who innocently asked, "Why hasn't Daddy come back yet?" Anna held back her tears, forcing a weak smile as she said, "Daddy had to go to a faraway place, my love. But he loves us very much." João's absence was even more devastating because, beyond her grief, Anna had to contend with the bureaucratic issues that followed. The insurance company began investigating João's death almost immediately. They asked detailed questions about his last days, the family's financial situation, and, most painfully for Anna, his emotional state. Anna struggled to maintain the story that his death had been an accident, but the skeptical looks from the agents made her heart race. "Did your husband show any unusual behavior recently?" one of them asked during a meeting. Anna shook her head, keeping her voice steady. "He was tired, like anyone would be in our situation, but João never gave up. He was strong." Despite her determination to protect João's sacrifice, each question made her relive the pain of the loss and reminded her that Lara's future depended on the outcome of the investigation. The following weeks were filled with agonizing waiting. Lara's health continued to worsen, and the insurance company kept delaying their decision. Anna felt as though she were losing everything: her husband, her daughter, and the strength to keep going. Finally, Anna received the call she had been dreading. The insurance company had completed its investigation and decided not to release the payout, claiming there was enough evidence to believe João's death had been intentional. Anna listened to the words in a deafening silence, holding the phone as if it weighed a ton. When the call ended, she collapsed to her knees on the kitchen floor, wrapping her arms around her body as she sobbed uncontrollably. "Why did you do this, João? Why did you leave us like this?" The words echoed through the empty house, but no one was there to answer. Despair consumed Anna in the days that followed. The money she had was running out, and Lara's health continued to deteriorate. Every weak cough from her daughter seemed like a cruel reminder of the little time left. It was at this moment, when Anna thought there was no hope left, that something unexpected happened. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts, and she opened it to find a tall man with graying hair and a serene expression. He wore a perfectly tailored suit that stood in stark contrast to the simplicity of the surroundings. "Mrs. Anna?" he asked, his voice calm and gentle. "My name is Roberto. I've heard about your situation, and I would like to help. Anna furrowed her brow, skeptical. How do you know about us? Roberto hesitated for a moment, as if carefully choosing his words. Let's just say your family's story reached me through connections. And when I learned about your daughter, I felt I couldn't stand by and do nothing. Anna remained silent, watching the man in front of her. Despite her wariness, there was something in his tone that seemed sincere. I don't understand why you do this, she said, her voice full of skepticism. You don't even know us. Roberto gave a small smile before responding, sometimes helping those in need is the only right thing to do. What matters now is saving your daughter. He handed Anna an envelope containing information about a clinic and a check to cover the initial treatment costs. Before leaving, he added, please, don't worry about the rest. Just focus on your daughter. Roberto's envelope felt like a divine gift, but for Anna, it also brought a new wave of conflicting emotions. She didn't know if she could trust this mysterious man, but with Lara in critical condition, she knew she couldn't refuse the help. The next day, she began the process of admitting her daughter to the clinic Roberto had recommended. When they arrived at the hospital, Anna was unexpectedly greeted with warmth and professionalism by the medical staff. Lara underwent initial tests, and the treatment began immediately, bringing Anna a sense of relief. As she watched her daughter's initial recovery, Anna couldn't stop thinking about Roberto. Who was he? Why was he so willing to help? She tried to look him up in her spare time, but found little more than vague reports about his generous donations and a past shrouded in mystery. Though she was deeply grateful for his intervention, the feeling that there was more to this story gnawed at her. At the same time, Anna faced another dilemma: how to explain to Lara why her father wasn't there to see her get better. One night, as they sat in the hospital room, Lara asked, "Mom, do you think Daddy is happy where he is?" Anna's heart tightened, but she smiled and answered, "I think he's very proud of you, my love. He will always be watching over us, even from afar." Those words brought some comfort to Lara, but for Anna, they were another reminder of João's sacrifice. She still felt anger and sadness over his choice, but she also understood that everything he did was out of love. However, what troubled her the most was the connection between João and Roberto, which was starting to seem like more than just a coincidence. Lara's treatment began to show results, and with that, Anna felt for the first time in months a spark of hope. The little girl was growing stronger, her shy smiles started to reappear, and she once again asked to draw and play, even though she was still weak. For Anna, these small improvements felt like miracles, but her mind couldn't stop returning to the figure of Roberto. He had appeared at the exact moment when everything seemed about to collapse, bringing solutions to problems that had seemed impossible. One day, while Anna was at the hospital beside Lara, she received a call from Roberto, asking to meet with her again. They arranged to meet at a discreet cafe in the city center, and although Anna was grateful, she was determined to get some answers. When she arrived, Roberto was already there, seated with his usual calm and enigmatic expression. "Mrs. Anna, I hope Lara is improving," he said as soon as she sat down. "I'm so happy to see her progress." Anna took a deep breath before responding. "Yes, she's improving, and I'm very thankful for that. But I need to know, Mr. Roberto, why are you helping us? What's the real reason?" Roberto leaned slightly forward, his eyes locking onto hers. "Because I owe it to your husband," he said calmly. Anna froze, her heart racing. "What do you mean by that? You knew João?" Roberto nodded. "Yes, I knew him. Many years ago, he helped me during a critical time in my life, even though he didn't know me well. It was a selfless act that I never forgot. When I heard what happened to him, I felt it was my turn to repay that kindness, in some way." Roberto's words left Ana in shock. She had never known of any connection between João and this man. "Why did he never tell me about you?" she asked, still trying to process the revelation. Roberto smiled gently. "Because that was João. He helped people without expecting anything in return, without ever talking about it. But now, it's up to you to continue that legacy, to take care of Lara, and to ensure that his sacrifice wasn't in vain." The following months were a period of emotional and physical rebuilding for Ana and Lara. The little girl continued to show progress in her treatment, and with each successful step, Ana felt as though she was finally emerging from a nightmare. Although João's absence was still an open wound, Ana began to realize that he had never truly left. His love and sacrifice were present in every smile from Lara, in every step forward she took. Ana also started to get involved in causes that supported other families in similar situations. She began to share her story in support groups, trying to show that even in the darkest moments, there was always light to be found. Roberto continued to stay in touch, offering financial and emotional support when necessary, but always discreetly, respecting Ana's space. One afternoon, while they were at the park, Lara took her mother's hand and looked up at the sky with curiosity. "Mom, do you think Daddy can see us?" Ana squeezed her daughter's hand gently and replied, "I'm sure he can, my love. He's up there, watching over us, and he must be so proud of you." Lara smiled and went back to playing, while Ana looked up at the sky with tears in her eyes. In that moment, she realized that, although she would never forget the pain of losing João, she would also never stop feeling grateful for everything he had done for them. His sacrifice was a reminder that true love knows no bounds, and that even in the midst of pain, redemption is possible, and a new beginning can always emerge. Lara's recovery was complete, and she became the lively, joyful girl Ana remembered before the illness had changed their lives. Though the journey had been long and painful, Ana finally felt that they were entering a new phase. She and Lara began rebuilding their lives, keeping João's memory alive in every act of kindness, in every small victory. Ana also continued dedicating herself to causes that connected her with other mothers and children facing difficult circumstances, finding strength in the idea that by helping others, she was honoring João's legacy. Roberto remained a constant, yet discreet, presence. In one of their last conversations, he told Ana, "Your strength is inspiring, and I'm certain João would be very proud of both of you." Ana smiled, feeling that those words were exactly what she needed to hear to move forward. On the last day of Lara's treatment, mother and daughter went to the park, where they spent hours playing and laughing together. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, Ana felt a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. She knew the future still held challenges, but she also knew she had the strength to face them. And above all, she knew that João's sacrifice would never be in vain. Thank you for following this emotional journey until the end. If you enjoyed the story, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on the journey of Ana, João, and Lara. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. See you next time.